So usually with statistics, you gather data, then you take all that mess and you try to organize it in some way, maybe even run some tests that we're going to do a lot later on. And then you're going to take all that information and see if you could figure out the story, what it's telling. Or see if you could find any trends or anything that pops out as, what's the term? Something that's, maybe I'll think of it later. So as we look here, based on y'all's response, first let's define the variables. Do you see any quantitative variables? Anything that we can measure? What are we measuring? Nothing, right? We're not doing any kind of miles per hour or distance. Any kind of categorical variables, which is what? Your favorite elective. Yep. So this is all categorical. Now, we'll move on because we're working backwards. Because by the end of the school year, we'll be collecting all the data, put it into test, and then analyzing it. We're now in the analyzing part. We're going to do what's called relative frequency. How often something happens divided by its outcome. So let's find the total. How many responses did I get? 10? 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. All right. Next, let's take art, and I want to find the relative frequency of art, which is 4 over 10. Again, this is art. 4 over 10 gives me, what is my decimal? Well, let me bring up my calculator. 4 over 10 is 0.4. So my relative frequency is 0.4. What does that also tell me as far as percentages? 40%? What? What about 40%? 40% art. What about 40% art? Like, tell the whole story. 40% of the chooses art, likes art as their favorite. Yes. Where is there 30% of the class? Or what elective does 30% of the class like? PE, physical education. You took 3. Luckily for us, it was an easy 10. We can do that math. That's 0.3 or 30%. So relative frequency is the decimal version, it's the statistics version. We can change that into a percentage to actually help tell the story a little bit better. All right. So, let's see. Raise your hand if you did art. For the sake of this, I'll put 2. Okay, let's do some totals. So how many total do we have with math and core classes? 5. What's that? Oh. And how many total do we have with English? 5. Overslept again? Yeah. Oh, man. So, what percentage of all students who choose PE? Well, we kind of found that out in the previous slide, right? Let's go back. PE was what percent? 30%. What percentage of students who choose math and choose art? So which percentage of students choose both? They liked art and math. I heard 10%. How did she get that number? Well, what is our total? 10. And how many chose both math and art? 1. So I'll take my relative frequency, 1 over 10, 0.1, or change that to a percentage, 10%. And then let's see. Percentage of students who prefer math that chose tech. 20. Very good. Because how many chose math and tech? 2, right? That's 2 over our total 10 equals 0.2 or 20%. Very nice. Let's look at this one. Move this down. 200 adults shopping at a supermarket were asked about the highest level of education they had completed and whether or not they smoked cigarettes. Results are summarized in the table. Again, I got this from a book. I don't know if this is actual results, so don't take these personal. Here's our table of the people we surveyed in a response. What are my W's? My what? What is my what? What am I looking for? Yeah, the smokers compared to their education. Is there a when? No. A where? I guess supermarket. How do we get this? I'm guessing they did what? Survey. Just ask them probably. We had who? Yeah, 200 adults. Very good. Okay, what are my variables? Do I have any quantitative variables? No, there's nothing I'm measuring. My categorical variables are what? Smoker and non-smoker, and the amount of education. Very good. Okay, what percentage of shoppers were smoker with only high school education? Now, I'm going to give you a warning. Please read these type of questions very, very carefully. Because watch this. What percentage of shoppers were smokers with only high school education? B. What percentage of shoppers were only high school educations? What percentage of shoppers were only high school educations were smokers? And C. What percentage of smokers had only high school educations? It sounds like the same thing 3 times, don't it? But I'm actually asking 3 different things. So let's take the first one at a time. What percentage of shoppers were smokers with only high school education? So first, what's my total number of shoppers? 200. Because it says, what percentage of shoppers? That's my total. It's going to start off with the total and then ask for the numerator at the top. So what percentage of the shoppers, 200, were smokers with only high school education? So smoker, only high school education is what? 32. So now I need to take 32, divide it by 200, and I get what percentage? 16%. 0.16 is my relative frequency, which says 16% of my shoppers are smokers with a high school education. Next question. What percentage of shoppers with only high school education, so what's my total? Nope. What percentage of shoppers with only high school educations? 93, very good. So I'll do that over here, 93. That's my total. Were smokers?
32.
Nice, 32. So 32 divided by 93 is 0.344. We'll just say 0.34. So roughly 34% of our shoppers that only had a high school education were smokers. Last but not least, what percentage of smokers, so what's my total? 50, had only high school education? 32. So 32 divided by 50, what percent? 64%. So notice how at first these questions sounded the exact same, like we're asking the same thing, just reworded. But in fact, they are different, and you notice our different answers. What do you notice about the trend? Our total was what? The first thing that came up, right, in the sentence. First it asked, what total? And then it wanted the portion of that total. That will be a trend you'll see. So, okay. Create a segment bar graph comparing education level among smokers and non-smokers. So if I have smokers here, non-smoker, I'll start this off. I'll start with blue. Smokers, what percentage was high school again? Percentage of the smokers? What was it, 64? That looks about right. So let's say roughly above 50%. So blue is my high school. Red will be my 2-year in college, which is, how do I find that percentage of the number 5? 5 over 50, very nice. So take the number 5, divide it by the total, 10%. So let's say roughly here, and then we'll do green for 4 plus. What do I divide to get that percentage? 13 over 50, which I would say roughly is the rest of this table here. Okay, here, high school, blue, I'm going to take what number to find my relative frequency? Divide what by what? High school non-smokers. 61 over 150. Roughly 41%, so let's say down here. Two-year college, 17 divided by 150. Looks like 11%, so about the same as my 10% there. And then my 4 plus here. Now notice this isn't drawn to scale as far as my levels here between smoker and non-smoker. How do you know? How do you know it's, what does this graph say about smokers and non-smokers? As far as, now look at the data, what does the graph say? This is the same one. It would say I had the exact same number of smokers as non-smokers, but that's not what I have here. But what this does tell me is that what? What can you tell from this table, this graph, sorry? Is there anything you can induce from it? Maybe that was the word I was looking for later. Okay, so maybe a little bit, maybe there's a correlation. Later on down the road, we'll actually figure out what values to calculate to actually give us a significance or not. But from this, you can kind of see that the more education you have, the what? The less likely you are to be a smoker. Just a little bit. Again, we don't have the tools in our tool chest yet to actually calculate whether or not this is true. So, does this data suggest there's an association between smoking and education level? A little bit. For now, we can just say yes. Follow-up question. Does this indicate that students who start smoking while in high school tend to give up the habit if they complete college? So if a student starts smoking in high school, does this data say that they're more likely to quit in college? Y'all saying yes? Yeah. Is there another way you can think about this? Is there anybody that can defend the statement, no, that's not true? Because how do you know these people started smoking? Think about that. You don't know, right? It's saying, does this indicate that people who started smoking while in high school tend to give up the habit that they completed in college? Well, we don't know if these people started in high school. So watch out for assumptions.